Today I'm going to talk to you about tampons, menstrual cups, and vaginal dryness. There are a couple studies that show that tampons can lead to excessive vaginal dryness because if you think about it, you're putting something inside your body that is really absorbent, so in turn it absorbs the good and the bad, and sometimes if you use a tampon that is too big at the end of your period, it cannot be fully absorbed by the time you take it out, and so when you take it out, it's still dry. That leads to more dryness, and there's all kinds of things that can occur when it comes to tampons and our vagina. I'm going to talk about the difference between tampons and menstrual cups and what we can do to battle that dryness if it does occur. You might be wondering how tampons play a role in vaginal dryness. Chronic vaginal dryness is a deeper issue. It can be related to hormones, hydration, whether or not your flora and pH are in or out of balance. There can be many factors that play into that. However, if you do experience dryness, tampons can make the issue a lot worse because, like previously mentioned, when you put it in your body, it is really absorbent, so it can also absorb the good that you need in your vagina. Here are a few examples of how tampons can cause vaginal dryness. The first being you reach for a tampon at the very end of your period when you're not bleeding fully but there might be some residue left over. When you wear a tampon during this point in time, your body is actually working super hard to restore the pH balance back to normal after your period, as the levels do shift during your period. So when you use a tampon at this time, you're actually absorbing the good stuff that you need. So if you do want to have some sort of precautionary method going on towards the end of your period, instead of reaching for a tampon, maybe reach for a panty liner, or better yet, you can use your menstrual cup because that doesn't affect your dryness or your pH at all. Number 2 is you only use one size of tampon throughout your whole period. This can be an issue because if you're using a super on your super heavy days, but you're also using a super tampon on your light days and towards the end of your period, again, the tampon will absorb all of the good bacteria that's trying to reset your pH balance. Therefore, it can lead to some kind of imbalance. So if you do use tampons, it's always best to go with the combination boxes that have the different sizes, so you can use the absorbency you need at the beginning and then the lighter absorbency towards the end. Number 3 is you might be using scented tampons. I know it can be super tempting to want to use a scented tampon during your period, but the truth is it's actually harmful to your vagina. It can be very harsh because it is synthetic and chemical additives that are added to the tampon, so in turn it can upset your pH balance. Now you might be wondering, okay, we know that tampons can contribute to vaginal dryness. Do menstrual cups cause vaginal dryness? The answer is no, they do not cause vaginal dryness. The difference is menstrual cups are created out of medical grade silicone and they are meant to capture the blood, not absorb it. So they are in a bell shape and they're meant to be inserted into the vagina and just sit underneath your cervix and catch the blood. You take it out, you empty the blood, you wash it and you sterilize your cup and you put it back in. If you follow the guidelines of cleaning your cup and sterilizing your cup, there are little to no issues with toxic shock syndrome, which can be pretty high when using tampons. So it's a lot safer alternative if you're having any kind of dryness or any pH issues in your vagina. Now I'm going to cover a couple of ways that tampons can cause infections, and I know I mentioned briefly toxic shock syndrome, which I'll get into a little bit more, but when you use a tampon incorrectly, it can cause a yeast infection or a bacterial infection, which have to do with an undergrowth or an overgrowth of the good bacteria that's present in our vaginas. Number 1 is you want to make sure that your hands are clean when you insert a tampon. You never know what's on your hands, and when you're dealing with the sensitive area down there, you want to make sure your hands are super clean because you don't know what you could be transferring, and if you transfer anything harmful, it can cause an infection. Number 2, you want to make sure that you're changing your tampon whenever you relieve yourself so that there's no cross-contamination going on. If a dirty tampon or string gets in your vagina, it can cause an infection, so just make sure that you're changing your tampon each time you use the restroom. Number 3, you want to make sure that you don't forget to take your tampon out. We know towards the end of your period it can be super light, so you might put a tampon in and then completely forget it's even in there. This is what can contribute to the risk of toxic shock syndrome. That happens when something is left in your body for too long and then an overgrowth of bacteria forms. So just make sure that you're always taking your tampon out. I wanted to end the video talking about a couple ways to encourage vaginal health. There are a few things that you can do to make sure that your levels stay in balance. I know you've heard of your body having an acidic and an alkaline balance, so the same goes for your vagina. I'm just going to mention a couple things that you can do to make sure everything is good. First, it's super important that you're drinking tons of water. Dehydration can lead to many issues, and it can lead to issues in your vagina as well. So make sure that you're staying hydrated. Again, 8 to 10 glasses a day. I always bring my trusty hydro flask with me everywhere I go, and I'm constantly chugging water. So make sure that you are staying super hydrated. Number 2, I suggest taking a probiotic. I know that gut health has been a craze lately, but it's for a good reason. All of our health stems from our gut, and so if we're taking a probiotic and things are good in our gut, things will also be good in our vagina. But there are specific probiotics that are for women's health, where they contain specific strains of good bacteria that live in your vagina. So if you don't already, go to your local health store and grab a women's health probiotic. It will help a ton. Another suggestion I have is to avoid refined sugars. Yeast feeds on sugar, so if we have a diet that is very heavy in refined sugars, it's just going to keep that yeast growing and growing and growing. So a good way to keep it at bay is to avoid or significantly reduce the amount of refined sugar that's in your diet. You also want to make sure that you're avoiding synthetic or super tight clothing for long periods of time, especially after you work out. Make sure that after your workout or after yoga, you switch right out of your yoga pants, because if you stay in something that is not breathable and that has collected moisture, it can cause a damp environment for your vagina and lead to an infection. So make sure you're just switching straight out of those workout clothes. While we're not medical experts and we're not doctors and we cannot offer medical advice, we are here to help in any way we can. So if you are experiencing any discomfort, be sure to reach out to your gynecologist so you can get to the bottom of it. If you are having issues with dryness and tampons, or issues with tampons in general, just know that it could be a good time to consider switching to a menstrual cup. I know personally that when I switched over, it helped with so many issues. And we do have a happiness guarantee that if for any reason you don't like your menstrual cup, we can refund you, we can switch it out for a different size, and we can do whatever it takes to make sure you are happy, because that's how much we believe in our Pixie Cup.